I had always valued my independence. My career as an architect was thriving, and I had built a life filled with purpose. My savings were significant, carefully nurtured to fund a lifelong dream, a community arts center. It was more than just money. It was the foundation of my future, a testament to years of hard work and careful planning. I felt secure, proud of what I had achieved on my own. Then Mark came into my life. He was charming, attentive, and seemed to genuinely admire my ambition. We fell in love quickly, and I believed he was truly supportive of my dreams. He often spoke of our shared future, of building a life together, and I imagined him standing beside me as I opened the arts center. His words felt like a warm embrace, making me feel even more secure. Soon after, I met his mother, Carol. She was elegant and gracious, a woman who seemed to carry a quiet burden. Over dinner one evening, she subtly hinted at some financial struggles, a difficult period she was navigating. I felt a pang of sympathy. Mark looked worried, and I understood his concern for his mother. It seemed a natural part of becoming a family, caring for each other. One evening, Mark suggested we could invest together in a small property he knew about, a way to secure our future even more. Or, he said, perhaps a small loan to his mother would help her through her temporary difficulties. It sounded reasonable. He was so earnest, so focused on our future. I trusted him completely, believing we were truly partners in every sense of the word. I agreed, happy to contribute. I saw it as a gesture of love, a way to build a strong foundation for our life together. I made the first transfer from my savings, a modest sum, feeling a sense of satisfaction that I was not just building my own dream, but also our shared reality. My heart swelled with the thought of our future, intertwined and secure. The requests began to escalate. First, it was a small investment opportunity, then urgent family support for Carol. Each time, Mark presented it as a step towards our future or a necessary act of family support. He always had a logical, reassuring explanation. I felt a slight unease growing, a quiet whisper in the back of my mind, but I pushed it down, trusting his judgment. I started checking my accounts more often. My savings, once robust, were slowly, steadily diminishing. Mark would always brush off my concerns with a smile, assuring me it was all part of our grand plan. "It's just temporary, darling," he'd say. "We're consolidating our assets for bigger returns." His words were comforting, but the numbers on the screen told a different story, leaving me with a faint, unsettling feeling. Then came the family emergency. Mark explained it was something urgent, vague, but absolutely critical. He needed a significant amount from my dream project's dedicated fund. My heart ached at the thought, but he promised to pay it back quickly, emphasizing the urgency. "It's for our family, Alina," he pleaded, and I couldn't say no. A large chunk of my dream vanished, just like that. That was when the seed of doubt truly began to sprout. The family emergency felt less like a crisis and more like a convenient excuse. I began to question the true purpose of all these transactions. Why was it always my money? Why did his own finances never seem to be affected? A cold, hard knot started to form in my stomach, replacing the warmth of trust with a growing suspicion. One morning, I logged into my personal investment account, the one specifically for the Arts Center. My breath hitched. A massive, unauthorized withdrawal had been made. The fund, my lifelong dream, was critically depleted. My vision, my future, felt shattered. A cold fear, sharp and immediate, gripped me. This wasn't just a mistake, this was a betrayal. I stared at the screen, disbelief warring with a simmering, quiet rage, knowing I had to fight back. I waited for Mark to come home. The screen showing my depleted dream fund still burned in my mind. When he walked in, I tried to keep my voice steady. I asked him about the large withdrawal. He looked at me, his eyes wide. He said it was just a misunderstanding, that I was overreacting. He blamed me for not trusting him, for always being so worried about money. My heart ached at his words, but a cold anger started to simmer beneath. I felt a growing distance between us, a chasm opening up where trust used to be. His dismissive words did not calm me. Instead, they fueled a new kind of resolve. I knew I couldn't just accept his answers anymore. That night, after he was asleep, I began to look. I started with our shared computer, checking old statements, looking for anything out of place. My hands trembled slightly as I typed. I felt like a spy in my own home, a strange and terrible feeling. I knew I had to find the truth, no matter how much it hurt. It didn't take long. Small discrepancies at first, then larger ones. I found mentions of accounts I didn't recognize, names of companies I had never heard of. Then I saw transactions. Transfers, regular and significant, always to an account in Carol's name. My stomach dropped. It wasn't just my money Mark was moving, it was going directly to his mother. The pieces started to click into place, forming a picture I didn't want to see. My breath caught in my throat. The realization hit me hard. My art center fund, the one I had worked for my whole life, was not just depleted by a family emergency. It had been systematically drained. Every investment, every loan to Carol, every opportunity Mark had presented, it had all been a lie. My dream, my future, had been used as a piggy bank for them. I saw it all clearly now. The diverted funds, the excuses, the calculated sabotage of everything I held dear. A wave of nausea washed over me. I dug deeper, fueled by a cold, quiet rage. I found emails, old texts, even coded messages between Mark and his mother. They discussed our plan, the timeline, and Alina's assets. It wasn't just recent. It had been happening for years, subtly, slowly. They had been working together from the very beginning of our marriage. My mind reeled. The man I loved, the man I trusted, had been plotting against me all along. This was not a mistake. It was a deliberate, cruel strategy. The truth was a heavy weight crushing my spirit. Mark, my husband, my partner, was not just complicit. He was an active participant, a willing architect of my ruin. Every loving word, every shared dream felt tainted, a calculated performance. I remembered his smiles, his reassurances, and now they felt like daggers. The man I had shared my life with was a stranger, a betrayer. My heart felt like it had been ripped open, leaving a gaping, painful void. Grief consumed me, a raw, burning pain. It was not just the loss of money, but the loss of trust, the loss of my future as I imagined it, and the loss of the man I thought I knew. I cried silently, tears streaming down my face in the dark. But beneath the grief, a fierce anger began to ignite, a sense of injustice so profound that it hardened my resolve. I would not let them get away with this. I would not be reduced to nothing. I wiped my tears and got to work. Every email, every bank statement, every hidden transaction, I printed it all. I organized it meticulously, creating a timeline, a clear narrative of their deception. I documented every single piece of evidence, every whisper of their scheme. My hands were steady now, driven by a new purpose. This was not just anger, it was a cold, calculated determination. I would build my case, piece by painful piece. The next day, I called a lawyer. Walking into her office felt like stepping into a new chapter when I never wanted to write. I felt vulnerable, exposed, as I laid out the story of my life, my love, and their betrayal. But as I spoke, as I saw the lawyer's understanding nod, my despair began to transform. It solidified into a clear, sharp determination. This was not the end. It was the beginning of my fight. I would reclaim my life. I left the lawyer's office feeling lighter, yet heavier with purpose. The path ahead was long and difficult, but I was ready. I looked at my reflection in a shop window. My eyes, once filled with pain, now held a steely resolve. They had tried to erase me to steal my future. But they had underestimated me. I would reclaim every single thing they took and more. This was not just about money. It was about justice, about my identity, and about proving to myself that I was stronger than their betrayal. My revenge would be meticulously planned and utterly devastating. The papers were filed. I stood in the lawyer's office, watching her gather the documents. It was a strange mix of relief and a deep, quiet ache. This was not the future I had imagined, but it was the one I was now building, free from their deceit. I felt a surge of strength, knowing I was finally taking control back. This was my first step towards reclaiming everything they had tried to steal. I learned that Mark and Carol had received the lawsuit. Their shock was palpable, even from a distance. They had underestimated me, believing I would simply crumble. A quiet satisfaction settled within me. They had thought me weak, but I had been meticulously gathering my strength, preparing for this very moment. It was a stark reminder that their actions had consequences, finally. They were starting to see the true cost of their betrayal. The news spread quickly. My story, once a private agony, became public knowledge. I saw headlines, heard whispers. There was a part of me that recoiled from the exposure, but I knew it was necessary. Their manipulation, masked as love, was now laid bare for everyone to see. I felt a sense of vindication, knowing that others would now understand the insidious nature of their scheme. The silence that had protected them was finally broken. In court, I watched as my lawyer presented the evidence. Every email, every bank statement, every carefully documented transaction. It was irrefutable. I felt a calm confidence, a quiet power. My meticulous work, fueled by pain and anger, was now speaking for itself. I knew then that my fight was not in vain. Justice was within reach. This was not just about money. It was about reclaiming my truth. The judge's ruling was clear: restitution and damages. Their assets were frozen, their financial schemes exposed and dismantled. I felt a profound sense of strategic victory. They could no longer operate in the shadows, preying on others. Their carefully constructed house of cards had fallen, brick by brick, because of the truth I had uncovered. The world they had built on lies was now crumbling around them. The confrontation was brief and surprisingly calm. I met Mark and Carol in a neutral setting. I spoke with a quiet clarity, detailing their downfall, not with anger, but with a detached precision. I explained how their actions had led them to this moment, how I was now completely free from their influence. Their faces were etched with a mixture of disbelief and despair. There was no joy in their pain, only the quiet satisfaction of knowing my emancipation was complete. With the recovered assets and a renewed sense of purpose, I finally launched my lifelong dream, the Community Arts Center. Every brushstroke, every piece of music, every shared laugh within those walls felt like a triumph. It exceeded all my expectations. I poured my heart into it, building something beautiful and meaningful from the ashes of their betrayal. This was my true legacy, not the one they tried to steal. My story became an unexpected source of inspiration. People reached out, sharing their own struggles, finding strength in my resilience. It humbled me, making me realize that my fight was not just for myself. It was a testament to the power of fighting back, of reclaiming one's identity after profound betrayal. I felt a new purpose blossoming within me, a desire to help others find their own strength. I built a new life, surrounded by a supportive community that valued honesty and kindness. I heard snippets about Mark and Carol. Their lives were in ruins, a direct consequence of their own choices. They faced the destitution they had so meticulously planned for me. I felt no malice, just a quiet understanding that they had reaped what they sowed. My focus was on growth, on creating a future filled with genuine connection. I stood on a hill overlooking the thriving town, the art center a beacon below. I was financially free, emotionally healed, and stronger than I had ever been. They had tried to reduce me to nothing, but instead they had forged a diamond. My identity was not just recovered, it was redefined, more authentic and powerful. Mark and Carol were left to face the emptiness they created, while I embraced a future they could only dream of, a future I built myself. I had the last word, not with anger, but with a life lived fully, beautifully, and on my own terms.